welcome to the channel Illumineers. My name is Uncool Sam, representing Lorcana Heat, and I got one. I finally got one. We're going to be breaking down my second place winning blueberry deck. That is Amethyst and Sapphire. We can call that Samethyst. We don't call it Blurple. That's a slur around these parts. So we're going to check it out package by package. Coming up. A lot of your usual suspects along with some unique choices. I'll talk through the packages and the logic in just a moment. If I don't speak on a card that you're interested in, or if you have questions in general, leave a comment and we'll get at you. Package number 1, Madam Mim Bouncers. We are running 4 snakes, 4 foxes, and 2 elephants. Snake, I really don't want to see the snake too early. That's more so for later threats when I've got some ink that I could pop something down and bounce it right back into my hand. So I try to hold on to those. We all know what the foxes do. We know and love them. The Mim Elephant, at one point I was running 4, brought that down to 2. And this past weekend, whenever I played the Mim Elephant, it did not last. So I had my opponents using 2, I think even 3 resources at one point or another to take it out before I could do anything with that. So no fun, but I call that a win, right? If they got to focus all their energy on that, that's a good distraction for them. Next up, we have our Merlins. Nothing crazy here. We got the usual suspects. We have crabs, we have goats, we have rabbits. We do have one Shift Merlin, Intellectual Visionary. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play him, you may search your deck for any card, put that card into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. What to say, man? The crab was good for giving, one of my smaller characters, Cogsworth, Tipo, Rafiki, a little bit of muscle. I mean, even up to, some of the larger characters too, if a big threat came out. So we all know what he does. We know what the goat does. I will say the goat went to the inkwell more often than not. Rabbit, what Rabbit does as well. And then that Merlin, I was at one point running 3 of the Intellectual Visionary, the Shift Merlins here, and that was not working for me, which is why I did not place top 8 in either of the first 2 set champs that I attended. Pulled that down to just 1 this time, and it came in handy. Use it to pull. I'll typically use it to pull Let It Go. Sometimes we'll pull Friends, like if I'm just desperate for cards. And even one time, I know for one matchup, I was able to put him out by himself without shifting. And he stuck around and probably got me about 6 lore or so. So came in handy for sure. Now we'll look at the 1 cost, and this shouldn't take long. We got 3 Rafikis and 2 Cogsworths. Definitely not necessary in this deck most times to have a 1-drop in my opening hand. Cogsworth, I want to see much later. I want him to give Mim Elephant Rush, maybe Merlin Crab, and then Merlin can give himself the +3 challenger. And that's a pretty sweet setup, and I used that a few times. Didn't use him on the Mim at all. Rafiki was good. I was running Brooms before, and Rafiki, that challenger 3 is just a little bit better. I used him on 1 hyena, and it made my day. I could have lost right there the rest of them, but having him swing into a bonsai and walk away unscathed was pretty cool. From our smallest package to our largest, we have 4 Tipos, 3 Great Stone Dragons, 4 Friends on the other side, 2 Let It Goes, 3 Libraries, 1 Genie, and 1 Mufasa. Now, Tipo, Great Stone Dragon, that is the ramp in this deck. Adding Great Stone Dragon, I did that after trying to make Donald Duck and Mickey work for me, but this just kind of worked better. There are times where I was upwards of 20. I think my limit or my max here was 22 ink, which was outstanding if I made it that far, because that was very useful with all the bouncing, and you see some of these big 7 and 8 cost cards coming out already. So Great Stone Dragon made that happen. Tipo, he's kind of a luxury, depending on what I'm playing, right? Like, so if I was doing something aggro, for sure, but there were times, and it's blanking on me now. There were times where I did have to ink him. I played a deck that had Amber in it all the way up to the final. So 7 of my 8 matchups were running Amber, whether it was Steel Song, Lemon Lime Discard. One of them was doing a Hyper Aggro, and then there was an off meta deck as well, all running Amber. And 2 of them, like I mentioned, the Lemon Lime, are running that nasty Ursula, right? So if I knew I was going up against those, and if I had these early, Let It Go, Libraries, Greatstone Dragon, that would oftentimes end up in the inkwell. I think one thing I learned through this process was not to get greedy, right? This is why they're in the luxury pile here. Genie, Mufasa, love them. If they came out too early, they're getting TPO'd. It was just not going to last, especially against discard. One more word about Mufasa. Mufasa costs 8 ink, clearly. I do not play Mufasa when I have 8 ink. Mufasa comes out a bit later. Maybe if I'm upwards of 10, 11, 12 ink in my inkwell, then I'll play Mufasa. If I play him right at 8 ink, I have other things I want to be doing. I want to be dropping and bouncing, and losing the 2 ink when I returned the 2 cards from my inkwell was painful, I learned. So this weekend, when I did get him out, it was a little bit later on. Next up, we have what qualifies as my quote-unquote removal package, not counting Let It Go. 2 Bells, 2 Cuscos, 2 Hades. Bell is who I substituted in place of the extra Mim elephants I was running. Oftentimes, if I was able to get some damage on one of my characters, it was super convenient to drop her in and immediately move those counters to another threat. Cusco, specifically there, obviously for items and locations. I maybe used him once or twice the entire day. And then Hades, oh my gosh, Hades is so important to this deck. Him and Let It Go, aside from those 2, there's no banishing, right? And even then, it's moving him to the inkwell. I will say, if I got up to 7 ink, I'm not playing Hades right then and there, because typically my opponent is at maybe 4, maybe 5 ink, and giving them that buff at that point in the matchup, not a good look. Oh, the things the devil makes us do. 2 Cruellas, 2 Robin Hoods. These are almost specifically for Diablo. Cruella is a card I added in lieu of the 2 Shift Merlins, and I did that maybe 3 o'clock the morning of. It just woke up and hit me that I needed something that could take out Diablo at the Cove. Did I ever have to use her against Diablo at the Cove? No, but she could have if she wanted to. Let's see, Robin Hood. I put in Robin Hood a while ago to get some more cards that were out of Madame Medusa range, and he does give you some card draw that I forgot about more than once, and I just forgot about again. I just looked at the card. I was like, oh yeah, I get to draw a card if my opponent has more cards in their hand than me. I get to draw a card. Next up, we have the Frozen package, or the Exerter package as it so appears. 4 Fifth Spirit Elsas. You need her in there for the rush and the evasive and exerting, all that good stuff. She could take out Diablo if he's not at the Cove, or maybe if he has a little damage on him. I probably use her for Flynn more often than not. She just magically knows to show up when I need her for that. Big Elsa, there's not a lot, as you've noticed, there's not a lot of heavy questers. So definitely the benefit of getting to exert 2 chosen characters came in super handy, especially against Steel Song, it felt like. But then leaving that body out to get you 3 lore there, man, because these matchups all dragged. And then Anna, we're going to move y'all out the way. Anna, MVP of this weekend. I put her in there specifically for Prince John. When you play this character, each opponent chooses and exerts one of their ready characters. So a lot of times I had seen leading up to this weekend, it's Prince John that's the one that's not exerted. Sometimes you got Prince John and you have muses. And really either one of those is great to take out. but I used her so often. So often. She was critical in every matchup and every win that I had. Definitely would not have this mat if it wasn't for this Ana. Man, I really love this deck because it lets me do two of my favorite things to do in Lorcana, and that's ramp and draw. Removal is definitely a challenge. A lot of the matchups I lost came down to my inability to clear a wide board. And once I made it to the final, I got absolutely mollywopped by Ruby Sapphire because I couldn't get aggressive early enough, and my opponent piloted that deck incredibly well. So, here's hoping Ravensburger gives us our very own beat prep or Under the Sea or something. Maybe something like A Friend Like Me where they all go to their inkwell or something crazy. I don't know. Be worth it in those moments. Absolutely. Any of you run a similar deck? Anything you change? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Peace out.